It drives change. It gets people excited. It makes brands extraordinary. I saw a quote one time from the former head of advertising for Coca-Cola. He talked about the fact that if we are satisfied with our brands being ordinary, and if we are satisfied with ordinary advertising, then people will see our brands as ordinary. But if we focus on being extraordinary, then people will see us that way as well. Creativity matters because it helps us to win the battle for what I call the most valuable piece of real estate in the world. It's where every marketing battle is fought. And that battleground, that real estate, is the human brain. And what you're seeing on the slide is a microscopic image of the human brain. That thing is busy. It processes over 600 million bits of information every minute. And our challenge as marketers is to find a way to take a little piece of that brain where our brands can sit. I've been studying brands for a long time, and I've been part of some of the most iconic brands in the world. And I've looked at some of the most award-winning brands that have won the Marketer of the Year at Cannes Lion, brands that have become the most effective advertised brand in the world, brands that are commercially successful, some wildly so. And all of them have one thing in common. They all have what I call charisma. And charismatic brands do three things really well. They understand human beings and human behavior better than their competition. They have real empathy for consumers. They understand what they stand for, why they matter, and for whom. And the third thing that charismatic brands do extremely well is they tell their story in imaginative and original ways. They find ways to make their brands meaningful in the hearts and minds of their customers. So what I want to talk about today is what modern companies are doing. Now, modern companies are all about growth. They're all about using and expending less resource than they've had in the past. And they're all about doing things faster than they ever have before. And so charismatic brands have to grow in what I would call this age of urgency. But the catch is your competition has access to all the same tools, right? The competition has access to all the kind of data and analytics and technology that everyone has. And so in this world, where access to those tools are ubiquitous, you've got to find a way to break out, to differentiate, and I believe that's through having this sense of charisma. So what is charisma? Well, the dictionary says that it's exercising a sense of charm that inspires devotion. So what's charm about? Charm's about being likable. It's about being emotional. It's about being inspiring, right? Now, devotion is all about brand love. It's about brand loyalty. And I would ask you, what brand doesn't want to exercise a sense of charm to inspire devotion? And together, they can create a real powerful package to present your brand in a very meaningful way. So, what I want to do is talk a little bit about the things that I have learned in my career that have resulted in great marketing and advertising. Maybe a little bit of an ad on myself. I've been doing marketing for the past 35 years. I know I don't look that old, but it's true. I have had the fortune of working for some of the most iconic brands in the world, some that are sponsors of this event. So I worked at Visa for a number of years, driving a campaign there that was one of the most effective campaigns in American advertising history. And I worked at McDonald's for a dozen years, looking after the brand on a global level. I was fortunate enough to inspire teams all around the world to become the marketer of the year at Cannes and to become the most effective advertised brand in the world, I realized that while sometimes we think that one person can make a difference, we really are only a piece of the puzzle. It takes a team of people to make things really, really strong. Now, over the years, I've tried to learn a few things. I've tried to learn about what works, sometimes by learning what doesn't work. And I thought it would be worth your time to hear the 10 things that I've learned in my career driving some wonderful campaigns, connecting with people in unique ways. I thought that would be helpful, as if you agree with me that the pendulum is moving to creativity, I thought it would be useful to have some tips on how to do it. The first thing is about having the commitment that creativity is important for your brand. Somebody in the company needs to say, we are going to drive a culture of creativity. And that person needs to be empowered to make that happen. When I was in McDonald's, I happened to be that person. And it was an interesting story in how it happened. I used to get phone calls on a regular basis from the CEO of the company. He liked to show advertising at major meetings, which I thought was remarkable. And what I realized was I kept giving him ads from the same countries around the world. And I thought, for a brand as influential as McDonald's, that surely we should have more to choose from in more pockets around the world. And so I thought that's something that we should attack. And then I saw some data that showed that our award-winning creative had a 54% higher return on investment than our non-award-winning work. And that was the data point that I needed to convince the leadership team, to convince the business that creativity could drive the business. So being committed is the first thing you got to do. And I'll tell you, one of the things I did was I said to our system, I think we should be good enough to be the marketer of the year at Cannes. And so I didn't really know what that meant, but I learned pretty quickly after having a meeting with Phil Thomas, who's the CEO of Cannes Lions. I said, Phil, how could we do this? How can we become the marketer of the year at Cannes? And he said, it's really simple, Matt. You need to win more awards in more parts of the world, in more categories, over a consistent amount of time, because we want to see that you are committed to creativity. So I took that information and I went back to our system and put the programs in place to be able to drive the creative excellence to a whole new level. So commitment is number one. Number two, brand. I used to think that the brand was everything. And I've realized that everything is the brand. Every touch point, every contact, every interaction, packaging, everything is the brand. And so charismatic brands are very clear about what their North Star is. People in the branding business like to use fancy words. They talk about brand purpose and brand strategy and brand architecture and brand drivers, all these different words to really mean, what do you stand for, why do you matter, and for whom? I've learned over the years that having a powerful and clear brand strategy has a major impact inside the company, sometimes more than outside of the company. And I think being clear about what you stand for, why you matter, is more important than ever before, because the velocity of business is faster than ever before. And so it would follow that if everyone in the organization knew what true north was, that they would make better decisions. I can tell you that defining a brand is hard work. Mobilizing an organization behind it is even harder work. But the most charismatic brands in the world that do the best advertising are clear about what they stand for. Number two, the nature and behavior of the leader has the single biggest impact on the quality of the work that is done. The most successful creative leaders are what I call compassionate leaders. They are empathetic. They are great listeners. They are great learners. They have high expectations and ambitions for their people. Sometimes the most compassionate thing that you can do is tell someone that they're not getting the job done. And that's part of compassionate leader as well. Compassionate leaders are also what I would call whole brain thinkers. They get the logical side and they get the emotional side, and they leverage that